Hey, you guys, this is the Couplings Fire podcast. Here's a couple of things you might need to know, or maybe you just forgot. I'm Taylor, a volunteer firefighter and also a firewife to my favorite firefighter. Join me as I talk anything and everything fire related. I don't claim to be an expert, I just love to talk fire, and everything I say is my own opinion. My goal? To inspire anyone listening to take the steps to bettering their department, however they can. Let's get on to the episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Couplings Fire podcast. I'm your host, Taylor. I never know quite what to say after I say that. I feel like I need a better full intro, oh hey, like and follow us over on Facebook and Instagram at Couplings Fire Podcast. If you're listening to this, please leave a review. Stuff like that. But I'm just gonna go ahead and plug it in there right now anyways, but that's not really me. I don't like doing that a lot. I'll do it at the end, just to make sure you guys know where to find me, when I'm not actually recording things on here, but I don't know, it feels kind of weird just for oh, hey, go like this, subscribe, do this stuff, okay, do what you want. I'm happy you're here listening to this, don't get me wrong, but I'm not gonna push people to go out and find me. If you guys want to come and see what I'm up to, come and see what I'm up to. I'm open for everything. So, anyways, yeah. All right. So before we get into the bulk of the episode, the actual episode topic today, I want to kind of give you guys an update. The conference that I'm helping to put on, the Les Lukert Fire Conference in Kearney, Nebraska. This will take place the first weekend in February. So it'll be February 4th, 5th, and 6th. In Kearney. I encourage you to come join us. The registration should be up very, very soon. We just got everything 100% solidified. So we actually have our list of instructors that I can actually tell you guys. I can actually finally announce it out to the world. All right, so we have Squad 5 Fire Training. They are from Ohio. They will be doing our hot classes for the weekend. So we will have one hot class for all day Friday, and then another hot class that will actually take up all of Saturday and Sunday for that one. Then we have Mark Hoffman. He is actually a part of the Squad 5 Fire Training. He will be doing classroom sessions. So the way our classroom sessions work, and I will tell you who else is doing a classroom session. Our classroom sessions are typically 4-hour blocks, and they will teach the same class in each 4-hour block. And that way you have a chance to kind of pick and choose and go around to the different instructors that we have and the different classes available. Otherwise, we would only be able to have 3 instructors teach. So this gives more people more opportunity to cater and to tailor this conference to what they want to see and what they want to learn. Okay, so Mark Hoffman will be doing 2 Saturday classes, one in the morning and one in the evening. He will not be having anything on Sunday. Then we have David Mellon. He is from Kansas, kind of the Kansas City area, and he will be doing an all-day Friday class, and then he will also have the 3 class sessions on Saturday morning, afternoon, and Sunday. Then we have Brandon Fletcher. He is from Tennessee. He will be doing 2 sessions on Saturday with the same class, AM and PM. And then he will be doing a separate class, a different class, on Sunday morning. Brandon is also going to be our keynote speaker for our banquet on Saturday night. Then we have NEMA class, and this class will be an entire Saturday, Sunday, one class, 12-hour format. We also have Corley Moore from Oklahoma coming up. He will be doing 3 of those 4-hour classes, Saturday and Sunday, so Saturday morning, afternoon, and Sunday. And then lastly, we have the Nebraska State Fire Marshal. They will be putting on their Instructor 1 course. And this will be all weekend from Friday afternoon through Saturday and Sunday. And I do believe the Nebraska State Fire Marshal Instructor 1 class does require another weekend that you have to attend to finish your certification for it. So, but with all of this, you will be receiving certifications of completion for all of these classes. It's a really, really good time. The reason I came forward to help with this, and I'm volunteering my time to help with this, is because I believe in this conference so much. This conference, you guys have heard me talk about it countless times on previous episodes. It has helped shape me into the firefighter I am becoming. And this is how I was introduced into the wide world of the fire service. And I want to see that grow, and I want to see it push forward, and I want to be able to help somebody else have a great experience from it also. So check it out. Come join us February 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2022 in Kearney, Nebraska. If you guys need directions or want any information, let me know. Holler at me. If you guys get a chance to go and follow and like, there we go. That kind of plug again. Go and follow and like the Nebraska Society of Fire Service Instructors Facebook page and Instagram page, NSFSI, and you will find the information for that there. Like I said, registration should be out very soon. I believe it's going to be $250 for the entire weekend for all these classes. So you will not want to miss it. And if you are somebody who would like to instruct at a future Les Lugert conference, reach out to us. Reach out to the NSFSI. We want to hear from you. We want to see what you have to offer. We are always looking for new ideas, new instructors for upcoming years. We want to keep this conference progressing as the fire service progresses. And that's what we want. We want the innovation. We want the progression. And we want to, I'm going to put a Disney quote, we want to know the things we never knew we never knew. Anyways. All right. So, on to the subject today. Okay. I'm in a really good mood. Can you guys tell? I don't know. I feel like I'm talking like really loud and really fast today. I will try to calm it down. I'm not guaranteeing because this is a fun episode for me. I am super excited for this one. Okay. So, I kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I had the opportunity to go and ride along for 2 shifts at a city fire department, at a career fire department. Career city. It was both. It was a city career fire department. Definitely not rural area at all. Something completely different than what I'm used to. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. When you get the opportunity to go do a ride along like that, I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna jump on it. So yes, I had 2 full shifts, and this department ran the 24 on, 48 hour off shift schedule. And it was really funny because the way it worked out, I was actually able to do my first shift on a certain day, and then the second shift, they were on the same shift. So I was able to do the 2 days in between and get that experience of what it's like to go to work after 2 days, kind of do that schedule very briefly. That was interesting. That was nice. You're gonna hear me talk a lot about just how different this all was and how it was really cool being able to get the experience for it, because I don't know if I'm ever going to otherwise. So the first 24 hours, I was on a truck company, and this truck company specialized in like technical rescue. They did a lot of rope rescue stuff. That's what they love to train on the most. And then the second 24 hours, I was with an engine company. And it was kind of weird, though, because I was with the engine company, but I was also able to go back and forth between the engine and the battalion chief's vehicle. We'll get into that once I get to that second day. But the way I'm kind of going to go about this is I'm going to kind of just go through everything or what happened, and from day one, go through it all, and as things pop up, as ideas come in my head or whatever, I'll talk about it. So the first 24 hours, like I said, I was on the truck. They specialized in the technical rescue. And it was a very large crew, especially from what I hear career departments doing. And this was a 6-person crew, and then myself was on the truck. So there were 7 people on this truck, and that was crazy to me. It was very big. They had a couple jump seats in the back that were empty, so I was able to jump in one of those for the rides. It was a huge firehouse. They had 4 rigs in there. They had a truck, an engine, ambulance, and battalion chief in there. And it was 2-story. It was a huge footprint. Like just crazy how big this place was. My previous volunteer department I thought was a big station, and it was. This blew that out of the water. So it was fancy, but it was a nice place to kind of start out, I think. I definitely did not come empty-handed. I know better than that. I brought scotcheroos with me, and I think they were kind of surprised that like someone knew to bring that to bring food. But from the get-go, I knew that I had been paired with the best crews that I could ask for. The captain I was with for that first crew was so knowledgeable. And he was one of those captains that doesn't want to stop learning, doesn't want to stop teaching. He will work with you on whatever level it is. And you could tell his crew respected him, and everyone in that firehouse respected him. He never made it sound like or look like he was above anybody else. He was very much on everyone's level. He was another just worker too. He's definitely one of those captains that is a hands-on captain. He wants to be in it too. He wants to do things. He does know that he does have to step back and command like his spot, but he is very much a hands-on captain, and I very much appreciated that. But the rest of the crew, they were the hardest working people in there, and they cared about it so much. They cared about the job. They wanted to do better. They held themselves to a very high standard, and I know you don't always find that everywhere. Volunteer career, you don't find that everywhere. And to see every single person on this crew were to that level and they held themselves to that high of standard, it was a breath of fresh air. It was so nice. It was amazing. And honestly, I wish I could go back and just actually be on that crew with those people. I don't know if it actually got put in the last episode with Rob Ridley, but he said at some point, either on camera or off, I'm not sure, but how you go around to different firehouses and it's the different firehouse, but you have the same people, different faces, same people, right? You can pick that out. It's really funny because I totally did that too. Like there was this guy who for lunch we were out busy doing stuff, and so we stopped by a gas station quick for lunch, right? And he ended up ordering a full pizza and eating it by himself. But like he wasn't fat. Don't get me wrong. He was like super fit. Like he kept good care of his body. And he was eating this whole pizza. And it's funny because there's someone like that I know here. And you had the Joker in there. You had the guy with honestly, half his personality is his awesome mustache. You would have, the silent people, that wouldn't really say much, but when they did, it was really meaningful. You had all those people just in different bodies. It was really cool. All right, so it was a pretty quiet morning, right? There wasn't much happening. We didn't get a call right away. It was nice because it gave me a little bit of time to kind of get introduced to everybody, learn where I'm supposed to be on the truck and kind of how they run things, get a chance to walk around the station, get familiarized with everything, get a spot in the bunk room and whatnot, figure that all out. So that was really, really nice. Kind of see how they do things and see how they just naturally go into how their particular station works. And that was another thing I'll get into in a little bit, it'll be probably towards the end, about how I didn't realize how each station could be so different, even how they do the day-to-day things. But it gave me a chance that morning to be able to see how the station does it. How the station kind of, when they don't have a call right away, how they settle into their daily duties. Then we got taken out of service. Our crew went to go help test radios for this department. And what they were doing is they were actually kind of comparing 4 different radios to see what the department wanted to go with. And I am so thrilled with this department that they were including the ranks of the firefighters to help make this decision, because those are the people who will be using it. Those are the people that really care about it. And especially when you get to the captains, they're the ones who really care about it. So it needs to be something that they agree with and that they like. And so that was amazing to see. They were going between Motorola and Harris, I believe, for radios. I'm also not usually around new radios, so they looked really fancy. But I remember one that I was saying that they had was a touchscreen radio. And I guess it's made a certain way, so I guess like the corners and edges are protected with certain shock something or other. And there's like, I think they called it Gorilla Glass. I'm not, don't quote me on that, but I think it's like Gorilla Glass or something to help keep it from getting completely smashed, I guess. Like they were throwing it on the ground and everything, like just having fun with it. The touchscreen was interesting. I could see it. I could see how it would be nice. As a captain on the outside or a chief or someone on the outside, I could see how that would be nice going back and forth through the different screens and picking out things. Just as a firefighter in general, I don't know if I would like it. I think it'd be more hassle. I think that things would accidentally get pressed more often personally. The function did work when you had gloves on. It just was a little harder for it to pinpoint stuff, but it did work when you had your structure gloves on. What was really cool about those ones is, and I don't know why they didn't have this on the other radios too, but they had voice recognition on it, voice commands. So you could actually press a button and you could say, hey, take me to like TAC 3 or something, right? And it would say, radio to TAC 3, and it'd go to it for you. You wouldn't have to flip. You had the dial still and everything on top, but you wouldn't have to flip between them necessarily. You could just say, hey, volume 3, and it'd put you at volume 3. And then if you need a letter, hey, volume 8, and it'd put you at volume 8. And I want to say they had like 87 or so voice recognition phrases you could say, and it would do a total of like 15 different commands. So like you could say things a couple different ways and it would recognize it. So I did like the voice because I feel like that would be super, super, super helpful in a lot of situations. But I wish they would put it on just the normal radios. Like, I feel like that should be an option, a new thing. And I'm wondering if they just did it with the touchscreen. First of all, just maybe the touchscreen's the newest one. And I mean, I don't know. That could be. I don't know that much about radios. Or it's because they were trying to make up for ways in the touchscreen did lack. Like I said, with it kind of being harder to press and things at times. So, pros and cons. That was like the biggest thing that stood out to me with the radios was that fancy one. Otherwise, they were good radios, and they were just trying them out. So they had them go through their confidence courses and do working on roofs and stuff like that while they were testing this out to make sure you could hear, over top of chainsaws and things. And they had them. Then they had the FAO, the fire apparatus officer, for those of you who don't know that, FAO, by the truck, making sure that if the sirens were running or whatever, or whatever happened, the other firefighters could still hear him. And they could on a lot of these. So they were just testing out all those, but then they were able to just kind of give their opinions at the end and fill out their sheets and hand it in. And I thought it was, like I said, it was amazing to see a department take into account their opinions because they will be the ones using it. The people at the very, very, very top, they're not down on the ground anymore. Even though they may know a lot, they do know a lot. It's their job to know a lot. They're not in it every day. So it just awesome. So after the radio testing, it took us till about noon. Then we quick had that lunch, and then we started bailout training with the rest of their station. And that was fun to watch. A lot of that, some of it I'd done before, some of it I hadn't done before. So it was kind of cool to get their takes on things and to kind of get their different techniques of how they do things with it. Pretty standard. They just taught how you can slide down a ladder with your feet first, coming down instead of actually coming down each rung. they had where you come out, you hook your arm around the rung and swing yourself around. And then they did face down. And then lastly, they did show for a couple people on how to hang out of windows and things, in case they needed to. So I guess nothing crazy there. They had that practice, and it was kind of nice, like I said, just getting able to see the way they do things and how they explain things. So after that, we officially went back in service at 2:15. So it was quite a while that we were actually out of service for the day. But one thing that captain said, like he's going to look for those opportunities to be a part of those things, especially the radio testing. And the way he put it was, the more you put yourself out there for things, the more opportunities you have. And the more opportunities you have, the better impact you're going to have on your department. And it's a great philosophy to take with that. So even though it took them out of service and maybe had them get a few less calls for the day, because there were a few calls that went out that they could have gone on, this meant more for that. And them helping with this opens up another door in the future to maybe them helping out with something else and just having those better opportunities for it. I think it's a great long-term vision that they have for it, and not enough companies take advantage of. So we went on call at 2:15 that afternoon then, and first call that we had was at a trailer park. And just about everywhere has a trailer park. It just may not be very big, right? Even my old town had a very small trailer park. But one thing I noticed right away, whenever they went out on these calls, they're always taking note on what they see. It doesn't matter what they're going there for. This particular one, we went there for a medical call. And it wasn't anything crazy. So the captain wasn't involved. So the captain and I went around, and he was showing me how he sized up these buildings, how he was looking at stuff. Where are the hookups? Where are the shutoffs for everything? Are they in a different place than what you're used to? Are they abandoned? Is there anyone actually living in this trailer house? Or, maybe not. Some of them look like they weren't, but then we looked a little closer. Yeah, there is someone living here. And you get to just stop and look and see and make future plans in your head of what you could do or what you'd have to do in these situations. We had a chance to see some of these on the outside of some of these trailer houses. They were hoarding conditions on the outside, so I can only imagine what they could be like on the inside. And there's lots of campers in the area, not just trailer houses. And were they made to withstand some of the stuff? How are they going to act in a fire? Because how do you treat them? Do you treat them as a vehicle fire? Do you treat them as a structure fire? I personally actually don't know. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that goes along with that. You have the propane tanks and stuff that can be next to these or hooked up with these, especially with campers and things. There's so many variables. And they always look for this stuff when they're out. They always make sure that they know their district, they know their first due. And even if it's not in their first due, they're still going to take a look. We ran more calls for the afternoon. And then I had what I would call the true firefighter experience, the true career firefighter experience. So we were getting these sandwiches at this awesome local place. And so we called it in. They were closing in like 10 minutes. And we're like, oh crap, like we thought you were open a lot longer, but will you take our order for like 17 sandwiches? And they're like, okay. So we head over to go get the food. And on the way to pick up the food, we get a call. Okay. These guys who are making the sandwiches are staying open for us, and we have to go on a call. Well, at least they knew we were a fire department, part of the fire department, so they were aware that we could have to go on a call. Luckily, it wasn't very long. We called them. They were fine with it. We were on our way. Picked up the sandwiches. Awesome. We're on our way back to the station with the sandwiches, and we get called for another call. So, yeah, yay. Luckily, it also did not take that long, and we were able to get back to the station where everyone was waiting for us, since we had all 17 sandwiches. And then Wouldn't you know it, in the middle of eating my sandwich, like very, very middle, another call went out. So went and did that one too. Came back and ate a cold sandwich. Could have stuck it back in the microwave. At that point, I really just didn't care. So, I call that true career fire experience, right? The whole thing like, oh, you're always going to get called when you eat. That's stereotypically when it's going to happen. So it finally got to about 6:30. And I was sitting there in the apparatus bays on the back of the truck. And all I could think of, you know what? I could actually do this. I could do this. I could do this for a career. I love this. Even missing calls through the day. Even being super busy through the afternoon, evening, and, having to leave in the middle of supper for one. Being in the middle of a conversation and dropping everything mid-sentence. I could do it. I could do it. I don't know why. I never thought that I'd be someone who'd like it. I always thought I wasn't made for this. And I'll go into it later too, but the more I got this experience, the more I went through the hours and the days, the more I fell in love with it and the more I actually want to do it. It's crazy. It's crazy. So going on, we're still like before bedtime at this point. Yeah, go to another car wreck. And this one was interesting. This one gave me a different perspective. So the car, what had kind of ish happened. The car was obviously had been wrecked. It wasn't very bad though. It was kind of weird because the most of the car was undamaged. But the wheel was off and stuff. And the occupant was out of the car, but the car got locked. So no one's left in the car, everything's fine there, whatever. But like we still need to disconnect the battery from this, right? That's still part of their job. And so the captain was there, and he loves respectful entry. That is one thing he loves learning more about. He loves teaching. That's just one of his big things is the respectful entry. And so we're thinking about it and trying to figure out, well, you can obviously, yes, take a Halligan or a pry bar or something else to that hood and pry it open. You could do that, yes. And I know a lot of departments out there that do that. And it's not a bad thing. It's just the way they work. But he was thinking about it. The car wasn't on fire or anything, right? Like, don't have to worry about that. It wasn't that busy of a traffic area. There wasn't a lot of people coming around by that way. The police weren't in a hurry. The person was out of the car already, so they didn't have to worry about getting an occupant out. We had time. So he started thinking, okay, so what's better for this car owner? What's going to cost the least amount of money to get fixed? And that's something I don't know if a lot of firefighters think about. Maybe they do. I don't know. I've never heard of someone thinking about it like that before, though. So he was weighing the fact of, do I damage the hood of this car or do I break the window to get in? And so immediately he's thinking, okay, between the two, I'm breaking the window. And that's when he got thinking farther, we have time. Let's try to get into this window first by trying to, jimmy our way in there before we break the window. Blew my freaking mind. Just how his brain went that way. And really, it's an extra level of care for the community, care for the citizen that you are working for. It was awesome. So it took a little while, 5-7 minutes, and they were able to get in using a series of almost kind of pry bars and stuff on it to kind of open up the door enough. And they had a little tiny like pocket airbag or whatever they could use to help. They had some wedges, and they had basically long fancy coat hanger style pieces of metal that were in different shapes and stuff to be able to work different ways, that they were able to go and press the window so that they could roll the window down. They ended up hitting the other side's back window. It was fine. They hit a window so they could, roll that one down, get the arm in to unlock the passenger side. Then they were able to unlock the driver's side, take the keys out, and open up the hood. And then disconnect the battery. It took longer, yes. But they had time. They weren't in any hurry. And they cared about the customer. And the customer, the citizen, however you want to put it, they are the customer. They are, well, kind of your boss too. They're who you work for. But just being able to have those extra seconds to care is the big thing I took away there. And then with that, later back at the station, they were talking about that call, and I guess there's this little tool and stuff. I don't know much about this either. There's so much, you guys know this, there's so much I need to learn with the fire service, and I'm getting there. I learn every day on these things, but apparently there is a wrench at, they were saying specifically Menards, because there's other places you can get these wrenches from that apparently don't have this other adapter thing to it or whatever. But I guess they love these for disconnecting batteries on cars. And I guess it has, if you get the one at Menards, it has 2 different ones or whatever that come in the same pack. And if you were to get it at AutoZone or something else, it only has 1. Anyways, so there's something for you. There's a wrench at Menards that apparently works. So an interesting thing, this is all interesting to me, but what blew me away was how little of time these crews spend on scene. I'm not used to that. I'm used to when you go to a fire scene or a car wreck or whatever it is, when you go to a scene, you're there from beginning to end. And on a car wreck, you're there until the car leaves almost. You are there through everything. You're there till the ambulance leaves, whatever it may be. You're there till the fire marshal shows up to actually look at the house fire, whatever. You're there. Whereas on these calls, that crew, once they were done with their specific thing, they were out of there. The police took care of the rest of that. I'd say we probably weren't on scene for longer than, the longest one we were on was about 15 minutes. And that was a long one. Most of them was about 10 or less minutes of being on scene. And these weren't anything crazy. There weren't any super intricate extrications or anything to do. And we didn't have any fires while I was there, but still, I know something like that would take a lot of other departments. It wouldn't necessarily take them longer time, but they would create extra time to stay there for some reason or another. Maybe it's not everyone helping out picking up stuff, or maybe it's other protocols they have to follow for it. I don't know. But it's just how quick they were on and off scene. And they were able to get back in service faster to be able to go run on more calls. And even with the ambulance, they didn't mess around. It wasn't ask them 50 million questions before they put them on the ambulance, before they package them up and take them away. They pretty much had all of those patients, pretty much all those patients in the ambulance within 5 minutes of them being there. They didn't ask them extra questions that didn't matter at the moment. You don't need to know the entire family history yet. The hospital can figure that out. All they needed to know, is there anything happening now with you? Is there anything directly related to this that's wrong with you or something? And if I pick you up and move you, is it going to hurt you more? And how do we need to do this correctly? Those were what they were going through. And that's all they cared about. But it made it so those citizens overall, those patients overall, had a faster, easier time getting to the hospital, and they got the care they needed that much quicker. So talking about the EMS calls a little bit, when I was talking about how they were doing size ups earlier and stuff in that trailer park, so the truck I was on ran a lot of medical calls as well. They were all at least EMT certified. There are a couple, I think, on there who are paramedics. And so they'd run a lot of medicals as well. But even during the EMS calls, they were doing scene size ups like crazy. They were doing 360s like crazy, trying to learn the area, trying to look for, again, things that they don't know isn't there or could be there. You know, what's going to catch them off guard? What is something that's different about this house than or typically about other houses? I was shown one house that we went to that was an airplane bungalow. I'd never heard of that before. I was like, what? They showed it to me, okay. But they were saying this is a kind of a different one. This one from the street, you would never know. You can't see it. The way the hill is there, you couldn't see that top portion. So the top portion was all the way towards the back. And if you were to go up to this house and you didn't do a 360 and you were a firefighter going inside, you'd never know there was a room up there. And this room, the entrance to it was on the inside, but towards the back of the house. So let's say you have a living room, then your dining room. Well, the entrance to this upstairs room, which we assume would be a bedroom, was in the back in the stairway. But if you were crawling there in zero visibility, you wouldn't see it. And even from a lot of the side of the house, you couldn't see it until you get to the back. So that was interesting, just first of all, learning about airplane bungalows in the first place, but just going over the importance of always doing 360s, and not just the people who are doing command. If you are going interior, I've talked about this before, back when my husband was on the podcast with me, he talked about it before. If you are going inside, you need to do a 360. It is important for you, just as much as the officer, to know what you're getting into and to have a good layout of what's what. Anyways, so a little later on during the night, an engine crew, okay, so the way it came over, the page out was that, I don't know the actual engine number, so I'll say like 12 or something, right? Like engine 12, is stuck in an elevator or whatever. And it was just like, wait, what? And our truck got called to go respond to it, to get them out. And it was just one of the best things ever, because that dispatcher didn't need to say what specific engine company or what it wasn't. They completely just like laid it on thick that they got stuck. It was hilarious. It was so funny. And so the whole time we're going there, just the guys in the truck are just having a freaking blast with it. And just kind of roasting them and everything with it. Just, good old fire station fun. Get all the way there. We park. And wouldn't you know it, they canceled us because they got out of the elevator. That would have been funny. But, I mean, the only thing better than that is if it would have been cops stuck in there. But, oh, man. But that kind of takes me into just the overall atmosphere that was at this firehouse. The hanging in the bays. It was so much fun. They had these old couches and recliners and stuff, a couple different places in there, and a couple of rolly chairs so you could sit behind the trucks and roll them out of the way when you needed to. But just, there's something different about being out there and hanging out. I don't know what it is that's different, but it is compared to sitting at the table or somewhere else in the station. Everything's much more relaxed, so much gets talked about. And maybe it's because I've never actually had an actual quote-unquote fire station kitchen table. So maybe that's it too, because that, for me, being in the apparatus bays, that feels like my kitchen table. That is where the problems of the world get figured out, right? That is where you drink all your coffee and stuff and chill, and I don't know, like that to me is my kitchen table, is out there. And that's been in every station I've been in, has been the case. But someday I'll get somewhere where it actually has a legit kitchen table. I guess So the one I went on later that week, it was kind of similar to that. But anyways, we'll get to that later. But yeah, just the atmosphere of hanging out there and talking. And when I mentioned before about the captain wanting to learn, he was asking me because he knew I came from a rural area. So he was curious about grain bin rescues and explosions. And that's something that they don't deal with there in the city at all. So he was so curious about it. And it kind of confused me, kind of floored me, because I've always thought, especially where these guys, the technical rescues, like their big thing, right, on this crew, they would know more than me in all this stuff. What can I ever teach them? What, you know, they're so far above me. What good could I give them? What do I know? And it was in that moment of explaining to them how grain bin rescues work, of just a lot of things that go into the whole process of it, and explosions and what you want to look out for and things. That moment for me made me realize that everyone knows something you don't. And you're always a student. You will always be a student. There is always going to be something out there you don't know, and someone able to teach you stuff you don't know. And even a lot of people who you may see as, not to sound in a bad way, but not beneath you, like, I can't think of the word, just like not as experienced as you, or in a different position than you, a lower position. That's kind of what I mean, not beneath you as in, anyways. There's going to be people out there that know more than you. And that's good. Because if we knew everything about everything, I mean, our brains would be way too big. We'd be, I don't know how you'd be able to keep all that straight in your brain. But there's people who have specialties in different areas for a reason. No, it was just such a good experience to be able to explain that to these city guys, and show them a little bit of what I do, of what I have done. And like I said, they're always learning. They're always wanting to learn. They were leaning in to hear what I had to say and thinking about it and asking questions about it. And that's a crew I would want to be a part of. That's a crew that I would be proud to be a part of. One that wants to keep learning and being there. And having those conversations like that and asking those questions and pushing yourselves as a group helps to create an atmosphere like that. Okay, so in the next kind of section here, so we're going into nighttime. Finally go to bed. I can't remember what time it was. It was probably midnight. I was having way too much fun talking about everything. So they had a 2-story station, and they actually had fire poles coming from by the bunk area, by the bunk rooms and stuff. So, yay. So that means I got to learn how to use those really well. First time I slid down it was terrible. Oh my goodness. It squeaked so much. It was so bad. So bad. Like, I had burns on my hand from coming down and everything. And I'm like, oh, that was terrible. The rest of the night got better. I got better each time I did it. And by the very end, I think I'd gone down like 8 or so times or whatever. By the end of the night, I got slick at it. It was fine. I came down no problem at the very end. It was like had always been there, I guess. I don't know. So that was nice. Kind of got easier. But so in the rooms, they were, I don't know. It was weird. I didn't know what to expect because I'd never gone to a career station before. I'd never been to somewhere where you do stay overnight for calls. So I didn't know what to expect. So this particular station, and as I found out, every station's different, even in the city. But this particular station, they had all the bunk rooms were in one big room, right? They didn't have ceilings on their rooms. It was basically just like you had those like cement walls in between, whatever, and to the front, and then you had a door. But they only went up about probably 7 or 8 feet tall, and then the rest of it was open after that. So you could hear everything. It was a big room, so obviously you had to be really quiet in there when you're moving around and things and try to be respectful. It was It was crazy to, I don't know, it's all crazy to me. It's a whole different experience. But they have to, getting to the rig as fast as they do, even at night. This particular department, their kind of rule of thumb is to, during the daytime, you need to try to make it to or you need to be out. I don't know if it was to the rig. I think it was out of the station in 30 seconds. And then at night, you needed to be there in a minute. And holy crap. Like, it's crazy. And I'm pretty sure, so the crew that I was with, like I said, they were very into it, which is great. Fantastic. I don't know how they got out of bed so fast. I don't know how they do it. Like, are they not actually sleeping? Is that what's going on? Or are they sleeping and they've just been trained to it? I don't know. But they were able to, like, I thought I was doing good the first call that we had in the middle of the night. It was like, I hadn't even gotten to sleep yet. And I thought I was doing great. Threw on my shoes. They were already tied. Like, just like slipped them on really quick, grabbed my glasses, and grabbed my jacket, and out the door I go. I thought it was fine. I get to the poles to go down, and I could see out there that they're already all down at the truck putting on their gear. And I'm like, how do you guys get down here so fast? And one of the guys is just like, that's not even that fast. What? Are you kidding? So after that first call, I kind of had the expectation of how fast I needed to get there if I didn't want to get left. And let me tell you, I was worried as heck about getting left. I did not want that to happen to me and then make fun of me for it. Next call, I got a little bit faster, still a little bit behind, but faster. And I think by the third call, I had finally gotten to the point where I could be fast enough to get out of my room at the exact same time everybody else is coming out of theirs. Finally, yes, got it. Okay. Awesome. So when you get paged out, and I know there's some people on here, a lot of people actually who listen who aren't career, so they don't know how this works either. But they had stuff in their station where all the lights come on and a certain tone goes out when it's actually calls for your station. So that means in this great big room where everyone's sleeping, all the lights come on for everybody, which means you get woken up for everything, even if it's not your truck going out. There were plenty of ambulance calls that night, a lot more than we had on the truck. And so every time the ambulance tones went off, everyone would practically get woken up. All the lights on, the lights stayed on for about a minute or so. And, just kind of had to live with it. Again, did anyone actually sleep? Does anyone ever actually sleep when they're on call for career? I don't know. I didn't really get that good of sleep. I think I only got 2.5 hours total, but it wasn't even in succession. It wasn't 2.5 hours in one block. It was maybe 2.5 hours spread out from here to there to here to there. It's kind of weird. It made more sense to me because through the entire day, I had seen everyone with the slip-on sandals with socks on. Total tacky, right? Like, no one would ever do that in the real world. You know how common it is in fire stations to do that? Apparently, very common. Because it's easy. It's more comfortable than tennis shoes. They're easier to slip on and off than tennis shoes. So especially if you're sleeping or something like that, or you're getting out of the shower or whatever it be, slip your feet into those and run down, then slip your feet out and into your gear. It's super slick. So that makes more sense now. And I also noticed a lot of people would keep their doors open on their bunk rooms. Just one less step they had to do. So as soon as they jumped up and they already had their socks on, so slipped their feet in their shoes, they were right at the door without even opening the door to their bunk room. So those little things, it's just like, dang, because I had planned to put yoga pants on and then throw over my tactical pants or something like that over top of them. That was my original plan when I went to bed. And thankfully, I had a little bit of anxiety about missing a call right away, so I just kept my tactical pants on. Luckily, I did that because I wouldn't have had time to even slip those on and go, and not get left. It was crazy. I got trained pretty dang fast that night to run with them, to run that fast. And so, like I mentioned, how there were ambulance calls all night. Whoever was running the ambulance was doing them, pretty much sleeping downstairs in the recliners. They didn't even bother coming upstairs, because by the time you get upstairs, you maybe get 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes like max to sleep during the night. And then you have to go out for another call or something. It's not worth it. It's not worth it trying to go all the way upstairs, sliding down the fire pole, dealing with all that crap. So they would just sleep in a recliner down in the kind of main living area of the station. But overall, I've always thought that responding to stuff career-wise, especially at night, would be kind of similar to fire department stuff, right? Especially in the middle of the night, because volunteers, when you respond from home, you're just expecting it to come whenever, right? So you go to sleep and you're like, you could expect the call to come out. It's very different. It is very different. Because when you're at the station, you know there's a call going to come out. Even if there's none, even if it's quiet night, you know there's a call going to come out. You are that much more on edge from it. Especially for someone like me, and my brain runs constantly, it was very hard for me to get to sleep. And when I did sleep, it was very hard for me to get a deep sleep. So you're not getting great sleep when you're there. Whereas at home, like, I would sleep deep until a call would come out, because I'm not expecting a call to come out every night at home when I'm on volunteer duty. So it's just, it was so different from what I thought it would be like. So overall, it was a really busy shift. From the time we went in service the previous day, like I said, about 2:15, and by the time we got to 5:30 in the morning, that morning, we had 15 calls. Pretty busy for the truck I was on. So moving on, once I got to the hotel that morning, I definitely needed some much needed rest. And honestly, I thought the 2 days in between would seem like forever. I really did. I was like, okay, what am I going to do for these 2 days? I had a bunch of stuff lined up. I had work that I took with me to do on my laptop, and I did a little bit of stuff, but it really went by faster than what I expected. And I know a lot of people really do love the 24/48 shift. And I could see you getting used to it, and it probably wouldn't be so bad, but like, especially if you've been up the entire night before or something and you really need to sleep, you lose out on at least a good portion of that first day. And then by that second day, you still have to go to bed early enough to be able to get up the next day and be well rested and ready to go. So I think it would just take a while to get used to, but definitely less time in between than what I anticipated. And it's a full-time job. You have to be at work. I mean, like, it's just like going to any other normal job that you go to Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. You're there every day. And then you get your weekend to cool down and stuff. But I don't know. It feels just way different, and it's probably just the weird having the 24-hour schedule that you're on and sleeping while you're there too. It's almost like it's just another, not hobby, but almost kind of like a hobby job that you do on the side, even though I know it's not. Yeah, I feel like this episode, maybe I'm just a little bit out of practice with some of these, but I feel like I'm just kind of like trailing off after every statement I make, because I don't know exactly how to go into the next thing. There was a lot that happened with this trip that made my brain go, what? And just trying to wrap my head around everything still and understand what it all meant to me to go through this experience. So forgive me for kind of trailing off like every single thought and just kind of not knowing how to go into the next thing. But so here we do it again. I'm just going to trail into the next thing. So start of the second 24-hour shift. So this was at a different station. I was able to ride with an engine and a battalion chief. And I'll kind of explain how that worked. The engine was a 4-person crew, and then plus me, and there was to be 5 people, and then the chief vehicle had 2 people in it. It was a very, very small house. It only had 2 rigs, the engine, the battalion chief. It was a very, very different setup than the first station I went to. You could very much tell it was an older station, and it didn't have much space to expand. Being nearer to the downtown area for them, they kind of got what they got, and they were I'm assuming one of the older stations, the oldest stations possibly for that area. Of course, the stations more towards the outskirts or in other areas where there's more room are going to be newer and bigger because they had the room to grow. They had the idea to get bigger spaces. I mean, when fire departments were built initially in these bigger cities, they did them out of necessity and not with and all the modern amenities that we have nowadays. They weren't thinking necessarily about gyms. They weren't thinking about relaxation areas. They weren't thinking about tons of separate bathrooms and stuff like that. They weren't thinking about that when they built these older stations. They had no need to. It just wasn't the normal like it is now. So yeah, you could tell it was definitely an older station, and they really did make do with what they had. And they combined rooms and things as needed at the station to make it work in the smaller footprint. You could tell they definitely kept well care of their station, making sure that it was clean and tidy, and that they did make use of the space as best as possible. So this one, I also came with scotcheroos, more scotcheroos. If you guys have not had my scotcheroos, they are pretty famous for the people who know me. They're really, really easy to make, but they win over everybody every time. So it's awesome. It is definitely my go-to. But overall, the guys at the shift, they were all amazing as well. They were a great crew to work with. They helped me. They answered questions. It was when I came in, I was immediately taken in as one of the crew. It wasn't awkward for me to be there. And that's the experience I wanted. I wanted the chance to see what it's like being one of them, being there as a career. What would happen if I were to make this my every day or my every third day? you know, would I enjoy? Would I like it? And that is the only way to get a true feel on it, is being able to be accepted into the group right away. And that was amazing. It was a very, very slow shift. And for this station, apparently it was very abnormal how slow it was. Apparently, I was an extremely white cloud going around and making everything slow for everybody. But it is what it is, went on maybe like 6 total calls for the entire 24 hours. And out of those 6 calls, we got canceled a lot. We only made it on scene for 2 of those calls. So, nothing too crazy, but I'm okay with that. It sounds weird because, of course, I wanted to go on more calls to get better experience that way and to kind of just see more action in the city. But I'm happy I got to see more sides of the job. I'm happy I didn't just get pounded with calls left and right both times. I'm happy I got such a different experience because that really puts into my brain, this is the realism of it. You can have it both ways. You can go to a bunch of calls. You can go to no calls. You can go to a bunch of calls and have nothing for real fire happen like I did the first 24 hour. You could be at a super big station, really, really nice, with 17 people total there, like top of the line. And you could be at the old 2 rig station with a total of 6 other people there, and have it be honestly kind of boring throughout the day. There are those realities. You have to find things to keep you active and to keep you engaged while you're there for those hours when it is slow. It was such an eye-opener how different it could be. Like I said, even for a station that claims to have a lot of calls, it was very abnormal for them. It was funny. They were all saying, I'm so bored all day. Oh, it was great. So, even though it was slow, it didn't keep us from necessarily doing things. We got to talk a lot. I got to get to know the guys pretty well. They got to get to know me. We went over, I had tons of questions still. The way I work, I have questions left and right. So I was asking whatever came up, and they were explaining how things work to me. It got to one point in the day, and so I was saying how at the beginning when I was talking about this day, how I was able to ride both the engine and battalion chief vehicle. Well, it basically had gotten worked out with that battalion chief since it was such a small station that it didn't matter who really got the call, I could go on either. Um, that way, just I had the best chance of catching the calls. Whereas the station I was at previously, it was too big of a station to really go back and forth, and the rigs were too busy usually to go back and forth, so it wasn't going to work. But this station, they had agreed to let me do that, so that was nice. We ended up going out. I went with the battalion chief's vehicle, and we ended up going and kind of scouting out some high rises. They explained to me more about that because I'm not used to those. I came from a small town. The biggest building we had was, other than like grain elevators, was like 3 stories high. That's it. That's not very high. So like skyscrapers and high rises, like what? You have apartments that are like 20 stories high or more, like what? um it was kind of crazy for me to see. So I kind of, they showed me around a few different ones, and how they would do things in there, almost pre-planning with me. There were a few things I needed to go check out of upcoming construction that they wanted to go over for their own pre-planning in case they have a fire there during that construction time. And it's things I didn't think about. We do it on the volunteer side. We do it in the small towns. If something's happening, especially like at the old station I was at, if something was happening around town, either with road construction or a certain building or whatever, that was really big or that could impact stuff, we would write it on this blackboard we had that everyone saw when they came in the door to get on the trucks. And so, in case something happened, or as people went in there to check trucks or whatever, they would see the information. And they don't necessarily tell that to every firefighter at these big stations, at these big departments, but they, the battalion chief goes through and makes sure that they have a plan for it all. And they're very on top of it, and it was cool to see. We also went around, and we ended up having a call nearby one of the homeless areas, one of the homeless camps. And that is also something that's new to me because where I live now, where I lived previously, there isn't a big homeless population. There never really has been. And so that was, I've never thought about fighting a fire in a homeless camp before, or doing even medical calls in a homeless camp, or any sort of other things that could happen around it, and how it can change things or how it can make you think. Um, One of the captains was telling me about how he had heard of somewhere a propane tank being in one of these homeless camps, in one of the tents. And they went to a fire there, and the firefighters just assumed it was all trash. Assumed it was just normal things that the homeless would have on them and whatnot, that it was just the normal stuff that you would find there. And ended up someone had a propane tank and it blew up. Did not end up good for that firefighter. But how are you supposed to know that? You can't go necessarily pre-plan those areas. You can try to a point, but things change every day. Every day. You never actually know. And it's not like you can go, I mean, maybe you can. I don't know. I'm not used to that. Like I said, I'm not used to the homeless population, so where you can kind of go and scout different areas of town and go, check out high rises and stuff like that and pre-plan and go walk through. I'm assuming you can't necessarily do that with the homeless areas and with the tents and stuff like that. I feel like that would not be very welcome. And so those are things that I have learned. I need to think about. I need to open my mind to possibilities of things happening and being there that I don't expect being there. Moving on to the next little thing that got me thinking. We were just driving around. We had to fill up the truck at one point, right? Truck, engine. I call them all trucks. You guys know that. Okay. We had to fill up the engine at one point. And I know it's little. I know it's probably normal for a lot of people. I never knew a lot of departments and stations had their own little gas stations, their own pumps for gas at the stations. That is completely new to me. And I thought it was kind of cool. It's just like, oh, that's really cool. Okay. So, just a little thing I learned because I've never been in a place that big to have that before. And another thing kind of with the gas stations and stuff, or the pumps at the stations, is um I'm used to refilling our own air bottles in-house at our own station. And I know some departments, some stations, even in bigger departments, every station has a fill site at their own station. But in the bigger cities, especially with that small station like I was talking about, they don't have room for it. So they have to go to another station to fill up their air bottles again. Again, another thing I never thought about. And it wasn't like that far out of their way to go do it. But still, it's an extra step you have to take to go do that you are taking extra time to do that you can't do in house. So just getting a better look at how other departments are set up and how their process works. So on both shifts, I I don't know. Like, granted, I don't eat that much anyways. I don't know. How do firefighters eat so much? I mean, I just know they're firefighters. They always like snacks. They always like whatever. It's super funny. Like, I noticed it really the second shift, but I know what happened both of them. But it seems like everyone's eating all the time, and maybe it's because it's one of those things you don't know when you're going to eat next, and you are tending to be up all night, and you need the energy, and you use that energy, so you really need to fuel yourself. It's so funny how they all eat so much. You'll see them and they said they had breakfast already before they came in, but then an hour later they're having a bowl of cereal, and then a little while later they're getting another snack, and then they have lunch, and then another couple snacks before supper at 6 or something, and then after that they want to go get ice cream and stuff and cookies, and it's just, what? How do you guys have room for all this still? Uh, so after a fantastic, like I said, ice cream and cookies, those were pretty top notch. We kind of ran around the town a little bit, checking out some other things. Like I said, we had run around and we filled the air bottles and things. We did keep busy throughout the day. A lot of it was talking scenarios and talking on just different questions I had and whatnot, and explaining things to me. We did have some downtime, and so people did get sleep because they were anticipating a long night. Um, Especially with not having many calls during the day or anything, they're expecting the night to be brutal for that station. So a lot of people did sleep during the day. Again, new to me, but I know it's normal. I know that's what it takes sometimes. And like, I mean, I know some career departments have the kind of rule, like during the work hours, like 8 to 5, you're supposed to be up and working and doing things. And I know a lot of people do that too. But if you're a really busy station, I see the benefit of sleeping during the day when you have the chance. Because if you are up all night and not getting any sleep, oof, I mean, like, I would hate to be on some of those ambulances that run like 20 calls, 20 to 24 calls in a 24-hour period. That would be a nightmare. It would be a nightmare. You never get any sleep. So, and like, after those 24 hours or at the end of those 24 hours, if you've been up the whole time and hadn't gotten like any sleep, man, your decision making goes down. So, so talking about sleeping and everything, finally time to go to bed. um, and like I said, they all slept, a lot of them took naps during the day and stuff, so that way they could go on calls all night. And it was really weird. We really didn't have many calls at night. Like I said, those 6 calls that we had were for the entire 24 hours. So I think maybe they had 2 calls after we went to bed. Something like that. So I got up for both of those. I have to say, in both of the stations, in both my 24-hour shifts, I did not get left behind once. Very proud of myself for that. I was very worried about that I would get left. With being at that first station and how fast they all got up on that rig, it definitely trained me really quickly to be up and ready to go. So when I was at the station, it was easy for me to get up. But just because you don't have many calls during the night doesn't mean you sleep any easier. I was waiting every single waking second for it to go off and just wondering, when is my sleep going to get interrupted? When am I going to have to jump up and go from 0 to 100? When is that going to happen? It hardly did. But that didn't mean I got any better sleep. So I could see how those 24-hour shifts really take it out of you, and you really need to have those off days to recover from that, because it takes a toll on you. I mean, I was tired for a couple days once I got back from my whole trip. And I know you get used to it. But I don't know. It's something, again, I didn't think it'd be that bad. I'm like, oh, well, when you go to sleep, you go to sleep. And then when it goes off, you wake up, just like I would with volunteering. But like I said, with volunteering, you're expecting the page to go off once in a while. You're not actively listening for it to go off when you're going to sleep like you do when you're doing a shift at a station. And then these bunk rooms were a little bit different than the other ones. So the other ones I mentioned, they were like that big room where you can kind of hear everything and everyone's in the same room. They just divided walls. This was different. These were actually individual rooms, kind of all sealed off from everything else. You could still hear when someone got out of bed and things, but it wasn't bad. All the lights, the light in your room and stuff like that still went off or still turned on when your call went out. So that was still another thing. But the tones that they had are weird. Like, I expected them to completely jolt me awake, and they didn't necessarily. And maybe it's because I wasn't sleeping that hard, like I just said. But they never really scared me. They just alerted me, if that makes any sense, even if I was sleeping. And I don't know if, like, maybe they've done research on, like, certain tones or something, or a way to do that, or maybe it just wasn't that bad. I don't know, because, like, I've been jolted awake, kind of scared awake and stuff by pagers in the past in the middle of the night that I've had. And this didn't do that to me. So it was really weird. Anyways, got done with that shift. Things were really quiet, but really good. I really enjoyed my time there at that station. Learned a lot still. Learned a lot. Overall, the entire trip was an amazing experience. If any of you guys who are volunteer get a chance to go to a career department, it can be a small department. It doesn't have to be a big city department like what I went to. But if they have ride-alongs available for you, if you can sign up for that, I highly suggest you do it. It was a very eye-opening experience for me, And, I wish I would have done a ride-along sooner. I wish I was more into the fire service sooner in my fire service career, if that makes sense. I didn't really get into the fire service until about year 4 or 5 of me actually being a firefighter. I was just kind of doing the motions, and I was just being the volunteer firefighter and whatever. And like I said in many podcasts previously, I didn't really get out into the wide world of fire service until that year 4 or 5. But if I would have done a ride along that much sooner with a career department, I would have realized that I want to do this as a career. The more I was there, even the slow stations, even the slow one where we had almost nothing happening or whatever, even the small stuff, the small station, I still want to do this. I could still see myself doing it. It is something that is very much pulling at my heartstrings at the moment. And my brain is trying to figure out a way to make a future of wanting kids and being a career firefighter work. And it's hard right now. I don't talk about my age very much, but I just turned 30. And I'm at that point where if I want to have kids, I gotta have kids. Pretty much. Unless I want to adopt. And Chris and I really want to have kids. And having kids and going through a career academy and probation, like actually, like the act of being pregnant and going through those things really doesn't make sense. It really doesn't work. And where the hiring process for fire departments are so long and you don't quite know how it's going to go, you can't always plan that. You can't always plan that you're not going to get pregnant or something before all that or during all that. And it can change everything. I think I would be heartbroken if I were to go into a career in the fire service. I got accepted. I got a job offer finally, let's say after like 4 to 6 months with a career department. And I was pregnant. And I wouldn't be able to do all of everything I should do in academy. I would have to sit things out. I wouldn't be happy with myself with that. Or probation. I wouldn't be happy with myself having to sit that out, having to take maternity leave for any of that. I want to go through the exact same thing. I want to be on the exact same level as everybody else in there, and I think you should. If I would have had kids 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, it'd be easier. It'd be a lot easier to go into a career right now, to go into a fire career. It'd still be hard, going in it with kids, but it would be easier because I wouldn't necessarily have to take leave for anything. And that's where I'm at right now. Because I want to do it. I love it. I fell in love with it. And you know what? For so long, I told myself that I wasn't made for the career side. That wasn't me. My body wasn't built for it. I wasn't built for it. I could be a really good volunteer and help where I can. Not perfect, but be as best as I can. But not built for the career side. That was Chris's thing. That was for other people. And my first 24 hours at the first station, I realized that they are not necessarily any better than I am at these tasks. They are just more confident in it than I've ever been. They don't necessarily know more than me in some of these tasks. They're just more confident. And it really made me feel like I can do it. For the first time, I thought I could actually survive and do this as a career and enjoy it. And it kills me. It kills me to have to make that choice between the two right now. Oh, goodness. So this wasn't meant to turn into an emotional episode here at the end. I'm sorry. You guys get what you get. But overall, I guess I'm just telling you, if you guys have the opportunity to go do a ride-along, go do it. You'll love it. And maybe you're going to find out it really isn't for you. That's fine. At least it solidifies more in your brain at the time. But if I have any advice for you, I would say do it sooner rather than later. Do it as soon as you can. As soon as you think about it. Find a department out there that has the policies for it, that will let you do a ride-along, and go do it. Anyways, so that's this one. Yeah, that's this episode. That was my exciting trip. This is going to be a long solo one for you guys. And I know it was half scatterbrained, half put together. Hello, I'm Taylor. Have you met me? That's kind of how I roll. But I'm ramping up for the Christmas season. I can't wait for it to kind of get started here. And I'm planning at the moment on staying on track with podcasts as much as I can. Some of these will be shorter, some of them will be longer. I'm trying to get more guests on to keep that every other week happening. We'll see if that keeps up for a while. It's harder with the holidays to get people scheduled in because everyone's busy with family, which is a great thing to be busy with family, but it's tough to get podcasts scheduled with other people. So stay tuned for whatever I have coming up. There's a lot of topics that I want to hit and I don't know what to go first. Like, I feel like I just need to have a bunch of stuff either in a hat or like roll the dice and like see what comes up next, to talk about. We'll see. If there's any specific things you guys want to hear about or know about, whether it be just my opinion on something or just let me know. I will take the time and put together an episode for it if I can and get something out there for you guys. Well, it is time for me, I think, to go get a workout in. So I'm going to leave you guys for the week. And I hope you have a great weekend, great rest of your day, whatever time you're listening to this, day, night. What did Chris used to say? Thank you for listening, day, night, whatever time. Whatever time you're listening. This has been Taylor Anderson with the Couplings Fire podcast, and I will see you next time, everybody. Bye. Thanks for coming by and listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave a rating and review wherever you're listening. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Couplings Fire Podcast. See you next time, everybody.